Name something that is sexier when it's in black.
People.
Behind Steve Harvey's $100 million smile is a story of shocking betrayal. He silently watched as people he once called friends and colleagues tried to poison his name, steal his work, and tear down everything he built. These were not just feuds. They were calculated attacks from guests who smiled in his face while plotting his downfall. Now, the truth is finally being revealed. The sister who betrayed him, Monique.
This is Monique, man. I'm telling you,
Baby, he be saying it like I'm a problem.
oh, you have been a problem.
For 25 years, Steve Harvey and Monique were more than friends. They were family. They had started their comedy careers together, climbing the ladder side by side. He called her his sister, and he believed their bond was unbreakable. That all changed during a single, fiery interview on his own talk show, Steve. The friendship that took decades to build burned to the ground in minutes, right in front of a live studio audience. Steve thought he was helping his sister, but he was actually walking into an ambush. The trouble had been brewing for years. In 2010, Monique won an Oscar for her incredible performance in the movie Precious. It should have been the highlight of her career. Instead, it became her downfall. She claimed that the powerful producers of the film, including Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, wanted her to travel the world promoting the movie for free. Monique refused, saying it was a matter of principle. After that, she said Hollywood blackballed her, and the job offers dried up. For years, Steve watched his friend struggle. He believed she was right in her fight, but wrong in her method. So when she finally sat down on his stage, he wanted to help her find a way back. He saw a friend who was hurting her own career, and he tried to give her the honest, tough advice she needed to hear. He looked her in the eye and told her the hard truth about the business they were in. He said, "This is the money game. This ain't the black man's game. This ain't the white man's game. This is the money game." He was trying to show her the path. He explained that to build an empire and provide for your family, sometimes you have to play the game. He laid out what was at stake for him, saying, "If I crumble, my children crumble, my grandchildren crumble. I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, stand up here and let everybody that's counting on me crumble so that I can make a statement." He was offering her a blueprint for survival, the same one he had used to become one of the most successful entertainers in the world. But Monique did not want advice. She wanted a fight. She shot back that integrity was more important than money. Steve saw her as stubborn and unwilling to listen to reason. He even offered to be a peacemaker, to personally help her fix the relationships she had broken with powerful people in Hollywood. He told her, "These people owe you an apology. You owe those people an apology. Then we could move forward." Instead of accepting his help, Monique chose betrayal. After the show, she went on a public campaign to paint Steve as a villain. She posted a video of the great boxer Muhammad Ali talking about never selling out his people for money. The video's title was, "Y'all think Steve Harvey need to hear this." She followed it with another post that defined the word sellout, making it clear she was calling her 25-year-old brother a traitor to his own community. For Steve Harvey, this was the ultimate act of evil from a guest he had welcomed as family. He had opened his home to her, offered her wisdom, and extended a hand to help pull her out of the hole she was in. In return, she stabbed him in the back publicly, twisting his words and calling him a sellout for the world to see. He later told People magazine that he regretted his choice of words, admitting he should have been more careful. But he stood by his message. He was trying to help a friend, and she repaid him with pure betrayal. The sister he once loved had become his enemy. Monique's betrayal was a deep and personal wound. But the next evil guest to cross Steve Harvey would attack something even more fundamental, the very foundation of his craft as a comedian. The joke thief who lied, Mark Curry.
So what's up with you and Steve, man?
Ain't nothing with me. Well, Steve stole my material on his show, so I had a beef on that.
In the world of comedy, a joke is a comedian's property, but a personal story, a memory from your own life that you turn into laughter, is sacred. For comedian Mark Curry, the star of the 90s sitcom Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, one of his most beloved jokes came from a painful childhood memory of being poor. And for years, he has claimed that Steve Harvey stole that sacred piece of his life and passed it off as his own. Curry's story was both funny and sad. He grew up so poor that his family could not afford Halloween costumes. One year, his mother got a brown cardboard box from the liquor store and put it on him. When people asked what he was supposed to be, she told him to say he was a UPS man. It was a signature part of his act, a true story that always got a huge laugh. Then one day, Mark Curry was watching TV and saw Steve Harvey telling the exact same story on his talk show, as if it had happened to him. It was not just a similar joke, it was his life, his memory, being stolen in front of millions of people. The accusation simmered for years in comedy circles, but it exploded when another comedian, Cat Williams, brought it up in a massive podcast interview. Suddenly, the whole world was talking about it. For Steve Harvey, this was an attack on his integrity as a comedian. He saw it as a lie told by a less successful peer to get attention. When TMZ caught up with him on Rodeo Drive, he did not hold back his anger. He called Mark Curry a liar and told him to grow up. Steve was furious, saying he had never stolen a joke in his life. He challenged Curry to name the specific joke he supposedly stole, calling him out for being vague. Video later surfaced of both comedians telling a very similar joke about the Halloween box. Curry's version was from a 1999 Comedy Central special. Harvey's was from his talk show in 2015. But in Steve's eyes, the accusation was baseless. He saw Mark Curry as an evil guest in his career, someone willing to spread a lie that questioned his honesty and his entire journey in comedy. He had worked for decades to build his name, and here was another comedian trying to tear it down with a story Steve believed was completely false. He had no time for it, and no respect for the man telling it. While Mark Curry's accusation was a single, damaging lie, the next guest on Steve's list was a man who built an entire interview out of them, unleashing a storm of hate that pushed Steve to his absolute limit. The hater consumed by jealousy. Cat Williams.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey was never homeless.
Steve Harvey has a simple rule for understanding the people who attack him. He says, "You'll never have a hater that's doing better than you." And in his mind, no one proved that rule better than Cat Williams. When Cat sat down for a nearly 3-hour interview on the Club Shay Shay podcast, he unleashed a torrent of accusations against some of the biggest names in comedy, and he saved his most vicious attacks for Steve. Steve saw the interview for what it was, the desperate, jealous rant of a man who could not stand to see him win. Cat Williams held nothing back. He called Steve Mr. Potato Head and claimed the perfect hair he had on the Steve Harvey Show was a wig. He repeated the lie that Steve stole his whole sitcom idea from Mark Curry. He claimed Steve could never be a movie star because he had no talent and looked like a country bumpkin. He even made the disgusting and false claim that Steve hated their fellow king of comedy, the late, great Bernie Mac. For months, Steve Harvey stayed silent, refusing to give the hater the attention he so clearly craved. But a man can only take so much. On stage at a massive event called InvestFest, Steve finally broke his silence. The friendly host of Family Feud was gone. In his place was the man from the tough streets of Cleveland, and he was furious. He did not say Cat's name, but everyone in the building knew who he was talking about. He called his attacker a little punk ass and warned him not to mistake his kindness for weakness. He told the cheering crowd, "I used to be a fighter, and I still got hands. They slow, but if you get up on me real close, I can still knock your monkey ass out." The threat was raw and real. He continued, "I still know how to turn my hip and shift that weight, and I'd knock your short ass out. I'd shoot you perm straight out your head. It was a shocking moment, a man pushed to the edge by what he saw as evil lies. Later, after he had time to cool down, Steve appeared on the Pivot podcast and explained his reaction. He said his threats were just a joke, but his feelings about Kat were deadly serious. He said he regretted responding at all because he and Kat were not in the same league. He then perfectly diagnosed Kat's problem. He said that Kat's entire interview was fueled by hate and jealousy, which he called a form of grief. He explained, "You're grieving because obviously all them people you talking about have something you either want or are something that you ain't." And the funeral becomes the podcast. In Steve's eyes, Cat Williams was the ultimate evil guest, a man so consumed with bitterness over his own career that his only option was to try and burn down the castles of the kings who had surpassed him. But the truth of Steve's relationship with his fellow king of comedy was much more complex, and from Steve's perspective, the real betrayal came from Bernie himself. The brother who broke the code, Bernie Mac.
I'll hold him, man.
I ain't got no television show. Why? Because you scared of me. Scared I'm going to say something.
Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hewley were titans. But behind the laughter, there was tension. Steve and Bernie were both alpha males, and they often clashed over who was the true king of the tour. But Steve always believed that, at the end of the day, they were family. That is why he was so deeply hurt when Bernie Mac went to GQ magazine in 2003 and publicly accused him of being jealous and trying to sabotage his career. For Steve, this was the ultimate violation of the comedian's code. Their issues were supposed to be handled in private, brother to brother. Instead, Bernie aired their dirty laundry for the whole world to see. Steve later said the article completely blindsided him. He said, "I was upset at first because it just wasn't true. Me and Bernie had a lot of good times together, and then this article in GQ came out and put all this vicious stuff in there." Steve said he confronted Bernie about the interview, and Bernie denied ever saying those things. Steve had to take his friend at his word, but the damage was done. The story of their feud followed them for the rest of Bernie's life. Rumors even spread that Steve had tried to steal Bernie's role in the movie Ocean's 11, a story Steve has always seen as a vicious lie that grew from that one interview. After Bernie's tragic death in 2008, Steve did everything he could to honor the man he still considered his brother. He spoke at his funeral and always said the kings of comedy could never reunite because Bernie was their guy. In 2016, he dedicated an entire episode of his talk show to Bernie's memory. He brought out Bernie's wife and daughter and had the mayor of Chicago officially declared November 14th as Bernie Mac Day. On camera, Steve cried, a man still grieving the loss of his friend. Years later, when Cat Williams tried to bring up the old feud, Steve shut it down by defending Bernie's honor. He said the idea that anyone could have mistreated Bernie was impossible. He said, Bernie was a man's man. This dude, right here, was Chicago South Side to his core. You mistreat this dude right here? You know the problem you're going to have instantly? That was an impossibility. In Steve's world, he was the one who had been betrayed. A brother had broken the code, and it created a storm of lies that Steve is still fighting to this day. But Steve also had to deal with enemies inside his own show, which led to a public clash with another powerful TV host who tried to paint him as a villain. The rival who piled on, Wendy Williams.
Wendy said, I like Steve, but that whole thing with the don't look at me stuff, that's not the approach I take for my staff. My staff, they can call me anytime they want.
By 2017, Steve Harvey was on top of the world, but he was also a man under siege. He was juggling multiple hit shows and a massive business empire, and his time was not his own. He felt like a prisoner in his own studio, unable to walk from his dressing room to the stage without being ambushed by his own staff. He had to do something to get his life back. He sent a memo to his team, laying down some new rules for the sake of his own sanity. The memo was blunt. It said, there will be no meetings in my dressing room, no stopping by or popping in, no one. It continued, "Do not open my dressing room door. If you open my door, expect to be removed." He told his staff to stop waiting for him in the hallways and to make an appointment if they needed to speak with him. Someone on his own team, an evil guest in his own house, leaked the memo to the press. Suddenly, Steve was being called a diva, a mean boss who was out of touch. And one of the loudest voices leading the charge was the queen of daytime gossip, Wendy Williams. On her show, Wendy called his rules diva antics. She bragged that her own staff had an open-door policy and could call her whenever they wanted. For Steve, this was a cheap shot from a rival. He refused to apologize for the memo. He went on Entertainment Tonight and explained that he was not a mean-spirited guy, but that people were taking advantage of him. He said, "I just didn't want to be in this prison anymore, where I had to be in this little room, scared to go out and take a breath of fresh air without somebody approaching me. So I wrote the letter." He saw Wendy Williams as an evil guest in the world of daytime TV. She was a competitor who saw an opportunity to create drama and make him look bad, and she took it. Rumors began to fly that Steve had declared a secret war on Wendy, plotting to take her down and become the undisputed king of daytime. He was a man trying to set professional boundaries, and he was being attacked for it by a disgruntled employee and a rival host looking for a story. While Wendy Williams was a powerful rival, sometimes the most irritating attacks come from people who are just trying to get famous by using your name. And one rapper learned the hard way that you do not come for Steve Harvey unless he sends for you. The rapper who got a free lesson. Pusha T.
Man, they rapping about you. What's his name? Trick? Pusha T. Who the f*** is that?
Steve Harvey has a simple way of dealing with negativity. He often quotes the pastor Joel Osteen, saying, "People's opinion of you is none of your business, nor should you make it yours." But in 2018, a rapper named Pusha T made Steve his business, and Steve was not about to let it slide. In the middle of a legendary rap battle with Drake, Pusha T released a diss track called "The Story of Adidon." In the song, he took a shot at Drake's father, Dennis Graham, for his flashy style. The lyric was, "A Steve Harvey suit nigga made him." It was a reference to the big, colorful suit Steve was famous for wearing in the 90s. It was a quick line, a pop culture reference that most people laughed at and moved on from. But Steve Harvey did not move on. The explosion happened on the set of Family Feud during a commercial break. Someone in the audience must have mentioned the song because Steve grabbed a microphone and went off. He started by pretending he did not even know who the rapper was, yelling, "Pusha T? Who the fuck is that?" But his anger quickly took over. He started insulting the rapper, calling him a broke-ass boy and screaming, "Where did he come from?" He ranted that Pusha T does not pay his bills or send his kids to school, so his opinion meant nothing. Then, in a truly bizarre moment, the host of a family game show started performing his own freestyle diss track. He strutted around the stage, rapping into the mic. "You better watch out, T, you don't know who I be. Somebody best know not to fuck with me." The audience was in shock. This was the real Steve Harvey, raw and unfiltered. He saw Pusha T as just another evil guest, a nobody trying to get famous by taking a shot at a king. He was sending a clear message to Pusha T and anyone else who thought they could use his name for a cheap laugh. He is not just a lovable TV host. He is a man who has fought for everything he has, and he will not be disrespected. From a sister who betrayed him to a rapper who tried to use him, Steve Harvey has faced them all. His journey to the top was filled with evil guests who tried to dim his light with their hate, jealousy, and lies. But through it all, he never stopped fighting, never stopped believing, and never stopped winning.